to Energy Conscious TV. I'm Caroline Oxbury from whitefeathertherapies.net, and the purpose for Energy Conscious TV is to connect with different soul beings from around the globe to share their alignment from within, their experiences, their inspirations to help others to expand, to grow, and to really have an understanding of their true self. The platform has been provided to help people who are maybe starting out on their journey of self-discovery, of self-exploration, people who want to gain an understanding of their energy body and just what the energy body can do for their overall health. So I hope you enjoy each episode, and I will connect with you all soon. Bye. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Energy Conscious TV. So today I'm joined by the Transformational Life Coach Michaela Lloyd. Hi. So Michaela is based in New Zealand, and you offer one-to-one coaching programs, and me and Michaela have just been speaking there, and you're going to be offering group programs as well when you move back to Wellington.
I will. Excited about that, but at the moment just doing one-on-one.
Cool. Do you want to introduce yourself and just tell everybody a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Michaela. I'm a transformational life coach, as Caroline said, and I essentially help people move forward in the direction that they want to move in their life, but focusing specifically on how they want to experience their life. So focusing on making sure their life feels really good to them. So overcoming blocks with self-love, confidence, relationships, helping people to express themselves honestly, authentically, vulnerably, raw. And it's been a journey that's been really organic. As Caroline and I were discussing previously, it's something that just kind of happened. You know, I was always one of those people where I was always looking for something to fix, and I always have gravitated towards people that have just always been open to developing in specific areas. So for me in my own journey, it was definitely just developing a really good relationship with myself and learning to really love myself, which is obviously, as anyone knows, a daily practice. But for me specifically, it was a lot of physical insecurities, a lot of insecurities about my body, as well as a constant need to prove myself. So always seeking for a career that would validate who I was as a person, or always needing relationships that made me feel like I was worthy of the life that I have, and all that sort of stuff. So it was definitely a personal journey of just learning to sit with myself, learning to love myself, and learning to feel like my life had purpose. And in the process of doing that and learning about consciousness and energy and spirituality, which was a very foreign concept to me at first, because I was that staunch atheist reading my drum until I learned a bit too much and then fell down the rabbit hole. It was definitely a personal journey, and then there came the point when the next part in your evolution is to teach what you know. And I was uncomfortable with that at first, but there came a point when life was asking of me, and I met too many people that were asking me to step in, that I realized I was just being stubborn. So it has been a really organic path, to be honest, but not an easy path. I mean, that's not to say it's definitely been easy. So that's kind of the general bare bones of the story as to why I'm here now.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit about your spiritual growth. I think we're very similar in our journey so far, and the path that we're going down as well. We're both massively passionate about self-love, which I think probably is a lot of people are. For me, I teach that all the time with my clients, and it's something that I'm practicing more consciously myself as well. So you mentioned your spiritual path. I was very much against it as well in my younger years, and it wasn't until later on, really only I'd say within the last 5 years, that I've started to open my consciousness and just awaken everything, my whole being and everything. What was it for you that gave you that sort of kick in that direction?
Oh, there have been many moments when the trapdoor kind of opened above my.
Okay.
All right, starting back. So yeah, there have been many moments when I thought I knew everything, and then the trapdoor opened above my head, and I realized there was so much more than I had once thought. And surprisingly, actually, like my path of spirituality actually came through delving more into my mind. So I started to learn about how our mind power is co-creating with the universe, about how the intention that we have and the thoughts that we think are actually weaving this energetic grid around us, which is our life. And so I was always very rational, and there was a couple of years where I was in that space where I was just trying to be a conscious co-creator, and there was a time that I'd gone a bit too far. And as with yourself, I mean, I have a lot of sort of Catholic upbringing and things like that, not within my family, but I went to Catholic schooling and that kind of stuff. And I was always too logical. It never made sense to me because there was so much that my inquisitive mind could never reconcile. And so I had to go off on my own path and find my own thing. And I think that that's so important, because anytime someone's telling you what to believe, you're always going to resist it if the motivation's not your own. So throughout my path, like I said, I got really into mind power. And I'm all about transparency, so I'm not going to lie. Like throughout university, a couple of experiences with psychedelic drugs and things like that kind of up-leveled things a bit. Not that I'm recommending that, but that was definitely my path, and I'm not going to deny it. And just yeah, so it started out with the mind, and then I just started to feel the interconnectivity of all beings, and the more I learned, everything confirmed that. You go to quantum physics and you learn about how on the most subatomic level we're all made of the same stuff and there's no separation. And I realized the more I learned and the more I understood, I'm like, man, this sounds like this oneness. This sounds like infinite love. This sounds like God. This sounds like source. This sounds like spirit, the divine, whatever you want to call it. The more I learned through every modality, it was just pointing me back to the same truth, that we're all one. And as logical as I was, logic led me here. It's like a really logical path to this truth, which is really I'm happy with my path, because it means that I can talk to people on a lot of different sides. I have a lot of friends that are still real staunch atheists, and I speak their language. I know their language. I understand it. So yeah, it's been a real trip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny what you say about how you've still got friends who were atheists, and
Yeah.
I had an ex-colleague, and she's a really staunch Catholic, and she's learning to be I think you learn how to be a vicar. Do a course, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And she got in touch with me to ask me a few different questions about spirituality and things. And actually, a lot of how I perceive things is how she perceives things, but we just word it totally differently. It's
Yeah.
got
And
100% of the wording, and I know that there's a higher consciousness. She knows
yeah.
there's a higher consciousness, but to her that's God.
Yeah.
But to me, that's the divine. It's source. It's the universe. Really.
And that's the thing. A lot of people have been scorned by the name God. I know that with some of my friends who are homosexual and things like that. If I don't like, a lot of people I won't use the word God around, because it's been used for so long in such a limited way that I usually steer completely clear from that word, because it's so loaded. There's so many connotations already attached. Whereas when you say source or divine or being or whatever, there's less. It's much more neutral. And I think it's beautiful though when you can see the crossovers and realize that all languages of the world are still speaking to the same truth, and it was actually just our interpretation from our limited state of knowledge that kind of made it that way. So I have so much time for people of all faiths and beliefs, as long as they believe that we are all equally worthy of the life that we have.
Definitely. And it's such a shame that there are so many crossovers, but the religion is like the biggest downfall of the whole of our world, really.
Yeah.
It's such a
Well,
shame.
I think it definitely served a purpose as far as, when religions were established, there was less law and less kind of common sense logic. We know now that you're not supposed to go and hurt your neighbor. We know that adultery is bad, whatever it is. And I think religion served a specific purpose in time when people needed structure and they needed a direction. But now we're coming to that point where, and I really feel like this is what 2017 is about energetically, is we don't need the middleman between us and God. We don't need the priest or the pope or anyone else to tell us what our connection with our heart should be. And that's why people need to learn for themselves, understand for themselves, but especially learn to trust themselves. Because someone can resonate with someone else's message, but that is that person's message, and we have a very unique relationship with ourselves and relationship with anything divine. So we need to go within. It's not about going to church on Sunday and that being our only direct connection with the divine. It's an ever-present thing because it's who we are. We can't escape ourselves, and we need to learn to have our own connection with ourselves. And when I say ourself, I mean God, I mean divine, I mean source, because there's no separation.
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly where self-love comes into it, and practicing to really get deep within our inner wisdom and our inner guidance as well, and just trusting yourself. You've got to learn to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Definitely on my journey, that's been one of the biggest things that I continue to battle with now, trusting myself. So when I'm in treatments with people, I still do. There's still blockages there where I think, should I not? And it's just you learn all the time. But self-love is the biggest. This is where you're going to learn everything from, just really connecting deep within your heart.
Totally. And some people think self-love is like selfish or some kind of like superficial thing, and it's about like false confidence where it's like, I love myself, like I'm fabulous. And it's like, when you think about it, if for most people on their spiritual path, it always comes back to love. It always comes back to connection, it always comes back to oneness. And if you are loving yourself, like if you love your heart, you are loving all hearts. And for me, self-love is the most spiritual practice I can think of, because if our fundamental essence and if the energetic building blocks of this universe is the frequency of love, then by loving ourselves, we are acting as God.
Yeah.
We are loving itself, literally. And so self-love is like the deepest practice we can ever do. And if you're a human having this experience, we know that it's one of the hardest things that you can do, not only because we're bombarded with all these messages about how we're supposed to be and like the tightrope we're supposed to walk in order to be good enough, but we have a mind that is designed to see separation. Our mind is designed to see black and white. It's designed to make us feel separate from the world around us, provided your brain is working like most people's are. But it's designed to make us feel slightly vulnerable. So a quiet mind, often finds things to do. Like a mind doesn't really like to have nothing to do. So we make problems where there are no problems, and we find flaws where there might not be flaws. So when you can learn to love yourself, it's like, for me, that's mastery level. Like when you can actually learn to love yourself unconditionally, that's when you've started to clock the game, and we'll never ever be done. But there's nothing life can take away from you when you're willing to deal with whatever comes, and you're willing to deal with all of your shit. And you don't need to look a certain way, and you don't need life to validate you in a certain way or people to see you a certain way. When you're in your own corner and you know that you've got a good heart and you know that you've got a purpose, like there's nothing life can take away from you. And I'm all for that.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's hard to practice self-love. Yeah. But it isn't about being this obnoxious bitch. It's about loving you and loving everybody else around you, just resonating on that high frequency that everybody needs to be on, really.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that people perceive self-love as being, well, I'm not doing that because I don't think this highly of myself, and it's hard to get into people's consciousness to help them.
I know
that in order for them to be happy, they've got to love themselves.
Yeah, and we have a real we really, as a collective, have really pushed this whole kind of humility, like, which is great. It's great to be humble, and life will humble you if you're not humble, so it's amazing. But a lot of people in New Zealand, we have this thing, I don't know if it's translated in the UK, but it's a tall poppy syndrome, where you don't want to be the person standing tall, you don't want to be the person at the top of the pack. And because of that, people have kind of equated a kind of a low self-esteem with almost being humble. Or and for me, that's the opposite, because I actually think that if you're not loving yourself, then that in a way is, you know, is really not appreciating the life that's in front of you. It's kind of, it's a waste, and it's ungrateful.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't find a way to love yourself, then you're actually being ungrateful for the life that you have. And I know that it comes from a good place, but we need to accept the fact that self-love is one of the most selfless things that you can do, because any person knows that when you start to love yourself and you start to connect with yourself and accept yourself, you can't help but serve others.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when your life gets easier and you start to learn the way, not only will people come to you asking for the way, but when you learn to love yourself, there's no choice. You have to help. Like, you have to serve it. It's not even a choice. You know too much. You've seen too much. And when you love yourself, it just tastes so freaking good that you need to help other people get to that place. So when I think it's selfish not to learn to love yourself, because if you can't deal with all aspects of yourself, and if you can't accept who you are, then there will always be sides of other people that you can never accept. There will always be things that you hold against them because they're showing the darkness that you can't look at within yourself. So when you learn to love yourself, you can show up for people in such a more powerful way, because you're willing to see all sides of them, and you don't judge them, because you know that they're human, which is kind of the point of why we're here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What do you do for your self-love practice?
The biggest thing definitely is making a commitment.
Yeah.
So because if you don't commit to choosing self-love, because it is a choice, it really is, in any given moment, you can choose to go down that rabbit hole of judgment and hate and all that kind of stuff, or you can choose to love yourself. You can choose to, you know, be like, oh, I see you, cellulite, and I still love you. Like, I choose to love you, you know. But I really think that for me, what I really do to practice self-love, I I have different outlets that allow me to express what's true in me. So be it journaling, or speaking really candidly with a friend, or making candid videos on Facebook, which you've probably seen of, which are often quite raw. For me, it's a matter of allowing all those different sides of myself to exist.
Yeah.
You know, because not only am I a woman, so there's hormone changes to deal with, but as humans, we have so many different aspects. And in the past, I would love certain sides of myself. I would love me when I was being intelligent. I would love me if I was being witty, or if I was, when I got that job, or whatever it was. But I couldn't deal with my selfishness, or I couldn't deal with when I judge myself for others, and I couldn't deal with the fact that, you know, I can be a bit, you know, I just, like, there are so many sides that I could love everything else other than that.
Yeah.
And so now I've just realized that I need to be a safe space for everything to come through.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling crappy, I let myself feel crappy. I seek to understand it. I'm like, why are you feeling crappy? What is this? What's the intuitive wisdom that's moving through this? So I think for me, definitely the biggest self-love practice has been allowing all sides of myself to exist, and using whatever outlet I need to express that, so that it can move through, you know, because emotions are energy in motion, and they don't go anywhere. They don't just fall through a trapdoor on the floor. You know, they have to be expressed. They have to come up so that we can actually release them. So definitely it's made my self-love practice.
So that is such an inspiring concept, to be able to really understand yourself in every feeling, every emotion that you have, and it comes down to not judging yourself, not being hard on yourself. So like you say, if you feel crappy, just
Yeah.
get that understanding about yourself as to why you feel like that. And it's the same with all areas of your life. I think you've got to, in order to offer that self-love, you've got to have that understanding, that knowledge about why. Ask yourself why all the time, and then you do get right down into the depths of why, so then you can work through.
And here we go. I think it's all quite serious stuff, and it can get dense and heavy, particularly when you're literally dealing with low frequency emotions, low densities. It can get pretty heavy. And so I think as well, finding a way to laugh at yourself through the process, and finding a way to find it all so silly. Like, the human experience is one of the silliest things that we can do. It's just full of paradoxes. It's quite ridiculous sometimes. And so I think being able to see all sides of yourself while also not taking it all so personally, like it's life, and there's nothing moving through you that hasn't moved through me, and there's nothing moving through me that hasn't moved through you. If it's possible to feel it, pretty much every human being has felt it. So when we can just accept the fact that it's not personal, it's life in a certain extent, I think it makes it easier, because it kind of gives us permission to stumble and fall along the way, and know that that's kind of divine, and that's sort of the point.
Yeah, and I think it's about being authentic, being true to yourself, and then you attract the people into your life that need to either hear your message at that time, or are just resonating on your frequency, and you work together to come through blockages together, and move forward with everything.
Yeah, definitely.
We spoke a little bit, and it's such a big thing at the moment with moving forward in the Aquarian age, about the masculine and feminine energy, and we've spoken a lot about self-love, and obviously we are more in the feminine at the minute. How do you perceive it, or how do you work with it, work through it?
I really do feel deeply with me. Obviously, I'm a manifestation of divine feminine energy as a woman, and all that kind of thing. And everyone has their own different relationship with masculine, feminine energy. I really do feel like it is a matter of each person harnessing equally the masculine and feminine qualities within them. And obviously we live in a world of polarity, so it's okay that within this incarnation it probably feels better to me to live slightly more within my feminine energy. But I really do feel like it is that beautiful harnessing of both sides, because if you let the pendulum swing too far one way, as we are seeing now as a collective, as we've prioritized masculine energy because it was what we needed to plan and strategize and structure and foundation, we as a collective, the masculine energy was very useful, but the pendulum swung too far one way, and everyone suffers. Men and women alike suffer when the divine feminine energy within both sexes are suppressed. So I really do think it's important to address this and even make it a more common conversation, because so many people, I will talk about this and they will think, if I'm meaning feminine energy, I'm just talking about women. If I'm talking about masculine energy, I'm just talking about men. And because of how we've been cultured, they presume when they hear the masculine qualities that it is superior. Like, you hear about, forward momentum and assertiveness and planning and strategizing. And so many people are like, well, obviously that's the better one, which is so not the case. They have to coexist in harmony. And thinking about the qualities of feminine energy, which is more fluid, which is more adaptable, which is the transformation and the change, and is connection. It's all about unity and togetherness. The man creates the house, the woman creates the home, and they need to coexist together. So I think it needs to become more discussed so people can actually understand it. I know that so many women I know, they're so dissatisfied with many areas of their life and they don't know why, and they get really anxious and they're really up in their mind, and it's because they're living their life in their masculine. And I understand it, because so many jobs and roles force us to step up in that way. And we women, we're master navigators of the masculine energy, but it needs to be balanced with the feminine energy. And we need to appreciate the fact that actually being present, being in the moment, connecting, that's what it's all about. So I think it's really important that we can reclaim that space, because everyone suffers when the energy swings too far one way. And I would say more people than not get serious anxiety. and more people than not probably get so many levels of dissatisfaction. And that often comes back to the fact that we're so up in our mind and we're so up in our masculine, we isolate ourselves from the world around us because we're up in our head, like in a big thought cloud, when life is happening out here. And so we need to drop more into our feminine energy and realize that having fun in the present moment, connecting in the present moment, that's the point. And now is the only time that's real. And I feel like there's a lot of talk about 5D consciousness, and that is about dropping into the present moment. And I think the thing that's stopping us from doing this more often is we haven't given ourselves permission to see it as valuable. We still think it's like skiving off, and that sometimes having fun should be left to the weekend and it's something to do if we've got time, but it's not. It's what makes life meaningful. So I think we need to give ourselves permission to step into our feminine and permission to step into the moment, and then see how life after that feels infinitely more meaningful. As you can see, it's an area that I'm quite passionate about at the moment.
Yeah, that was lovely. I think it's about understanding as well. I think people don't understand that when they are all caught up in the head, that obviously they must know that they are out of balance, and it's just having that understanding of how to rebalance and how to get completely out of the masculine and bring the feminine back in again. But like you said, there's a bit of a misconception about, if you're speaking about being in the feminine, it's because you are a woman, and you can only live in the feminine if you're a woman. And it's just about understanding. I think people gaining the knowledge, and people like you helping people along on their journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's absolutely the key. And the more it's discussed, the more it gets out there, which is really, really great. And I know for me, I felt a lot of like, this is where it gets more woo-woo, but I've like, particularly since November, I felt like immense amounts of divine feminine energy pouring into me and pouring into the collective. And for me, it was really about focusing on receiving. Like, I think, and particularly this does go back to self-love as well, like going back to what I said about us thinking the masculine qualities are more important. We don't always appreciate how important it is to receive, and how important it is to actually let life provide for us and let the fruits of life to come in. We've been focusing so much on giving that we don't ever focus on receiving what's already there for us. And so I've been constantly reminded of this for the last couple of months, like actually being grateful for what's in front of me. Actually, like when people offer to help me or when people try and support me, actually let them, because not only am I worthy of receiving the help, but in my own ideas of what was a good and bad thing to do, I realized how often I shut people down and denied people and rejected people because I didn't want to receive. And that's what it comes down to. Within the world, we need to be in harmony of giving and receiving. We need to have harmony of masculine and feminine energy. And there is always harmony, but if we don't let ourselves receive, then once again, we're prioritizing the giving and we're doing, and no one's getting. Like, who's getting if we're all doing?
Yeah, exactly.
I really think it's important.
To be that balance in order for you to, I think, in order for your, not just your mind, your whole body and your whole higher consciousness, just to be in harmony with you, but also to be in harmony with everybody else around you and everything around you. I know for me, the feelings of the huge feelings of the divine feminine at the moment, for me, it was more being around other women, really, and having a community and just knowing that energy is there and it's really prominent at the moment. And it's just, for me, that was such a lovely feeling. And for me, it was more just it happened in the new year. But it was such a big feeling, that the energetic field that was coming in, it was so really nice, quite overwhelming at times as well, but such a really, really nice and heartwarming feeling.
Absolutely. I think that as a collective, like, we're breaking free of some of the old paradigms, and I think within the relationship between women was almost kind of soured in a certain extent because we had a scarcity mindset. You know, there was like a feminine competition. And I think that tied back to our mind's belief that there are scarce commodities that the world might not be able to provide for us. So rather than seeing someone in their light and loving them for it and thinking they were amazing, so often people would try and, you know, like the tall poppy, like try and wear them down because it was confronting and we thought there was only enough to go around. And as we realized that that's an illusion, that the great universe can provide for us, because guess what, we're here. It's a very responsible parent. It wouldn't create us if it can't provide for us. And as we realized that and realized that we all have a unique purpose, like there was a unique truth and a unique message that literally brought life to matter. You know, it's, we have a unique purpose that we need to fulfill. When we appreciate that, we realize that there is no such thing as competition. You know, we're only in competition with who we were. And so women and men as well, like men stepping into their divine feminine, are our greatest ally, like literally a gift from the universe on our path. And it's so nice when we can see it through their eyes rather than seeing anyone else's competition, because they're not.
Yeah, it is. That's, yeah, so beautiful. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's really warmed my heart. Such a lovely chat. Do you want to just mention a little bit about your one-to-one sessions that you do and where people can find more information about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one-on-one coaching, like I said, it does deal with self-love and confidence and learning how to express yourself vulnerably and sit with yourself. That kind of goes without saying. For me, that's the bread and butter, because anytime you want to step forward in your life, be it in purpose or in relationships, you cannot overlook yourself. But as well, within my mentorships now, I've started to really coach people through how to express themselves powerfully. Because for me, through communication, that's the bridge between our two worlds. You know, we're kind of universes unto ourselves. So I'm really at the moment looking and working with people that as well are ready to step forward more powerfully with their communication, with their connection. Because for me, I really feel like that's how we can harness that divine feminine energy for both men and women. And when we can express ourselves and feel fully seen, that's when we're living in a world that we're so happy to be a part of. You know, we feel like we belong. So my mentorships usually go for about 6 weeks. Each person's different, so each session's tailored to what they need. I draw my extensive background of all things mind power, all things psychology, all things life, to be honest. It's all about emotions. We go deep, so it's not for the faint of heart, but it's fun because anything I do do lightheartedly. For me, like lightheartedness is like akin to godliness, so we'll do it like that. And everything at the moment is done over Skype or Zoom, so location does not matter, sex does not matter, age does not matter. But if you resonate with my message, then you're probably my kind of person. So you can reach out to me at my Facebook page is The True You Rising. My website is www.thetrueyourising.com. Most of my videos at the moment are sort of first uploaded onto my personal Facebook page, so you can connect with me there, which is www.facebook.com/Michaela K, so K for kitty. Or you can look for me through my personal Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/Michaela K Lloyd. That's where I'm at. So yeah, follow me, friend me, and it would be lovely to connect.
Fab. Thank you very much for taking the time out today to chat to me. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like we've got lots in common.
Totally. That's how we found each other on the other sides of the world.
Definitely. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and you've managed to find some inspiration, some guidance, some tips and advice on how you can either start your journey or you can continue on with your journey. If you would like to gain more clarity and understanding around your energy body on how this can help your overall health, it can help you to move forward in life, it can help you to get rid of any blockages that you may be experiencing right now, join me for a Heal, Balance and Expand session the details of which are on my website, which is www.whitefeathertherapies.net. So I look forward to connecting with you soon. Enjoy your day. Bye.